Hi, good morning. My name's Claire Russell and I am live on Facebook. The broadcast isn't officially going to start for another couple of minutes, so if anybody's actually tuning in yet, if you can just make a noise and let me know that you're there, and whether the sound is okay and if you can see me okay, and we'll get going properly in a couple of minutes' time. Quite strange when you're sitting here talking to camera and there's you're not sure whether there's anybody there yet. Aha, I can see somebody. So if there is somebody that's already logged in, if you could just make a noise for me and let me know whether you can hear the sound okay and if the picture's clear. That would be really helpful. Thank you. Hi James, good to see you. How's the sound, James? Can you give me a nod and let me know if you can hear me okay? Good morning, Steve. There's a couple of people joining. Hello Martin, I can see you there. Hey, you can hear me, James. Is that a yes? Yeah, brilliant. Fantastic. Thanks very much for that, James. Cool. I can see people joining quickly, so that's great. I'm really pleased to see that there are actually some people here this morning. Yeah, as you can see, it's wet and windy and cold here where I am this morning. It's the final day of my holiday today. I'm flying back from Rhodes tonight, and it's actually a real pleasure to be doing this from here rather than cold Great Britain, which is where I would be normally doing it from. So I'm just going to sort of chat for a couple of minutes until we get to the start time, and then we'll get cracking properly. Right, okay, I'm going to kick off. So there'll be people joining over the next few minutes, I guess, but obviously this will be recorded, so anybody... Oh, Jay, sorry Jay, Jay's just telling me he can't comment. Jay, there will be a recorded version of it which will go out on the page later, so if all else fails you will be able to do that. So, good morning everybody. I'm just going to get rid of some slight sound issue down here. Sorry about this. Right, there we go. So good morning, everybody. I'm Claire Russell. I run a network marketing business by the name of Claire Russell Enterprises. And through that business, I help people to set up their own home-based businesses. Thank you for joining me on 4N TV Live this morning. It is an absolute pleasure to be here and doing this. And I hope that you guys really enjoy it. So we're going to start this morning with the 40 seconds round. This is slightly different from what you're all used to in the 40 seconds that we do generally at 4N meetings. So you can send me up to 40 words as a Facebook comment, and this can be a brief pitch about you and your business, which everybody that's tuned in will be able to see. I won't try and read out all of the comments because otherwise we'd be here all day, but I will respond to some of those later, and obviously they will remain on the thread, and anybody that sort of watches later and has a look will be able to see all of your comments and find out about your businesses. So, oh, here we go. Look, I'm starting to see some comments coming in now. So I won't read them all out, but I will pick some highlights to read out as I see them pop up on the screen. It's really nice to see lots of people joining. Hi, James. James Chisholm from Meshi Consultants. Great to see you, James. Steve the barman, make you look like a hero by impressing your friends, family and clients with mobile cocktail bar. Stefan Thomas. I'm not sure we've heard of you, Stefan. What do you do? The author of Business Networking for Dummies and Instant Networking. And Graham Todd. Hi, Helena Wymont Lester. Work safe, work happy. Wow, it's great to see all these comments coming in, guys. I'm assuming that some of you have prepared in advance, which is really cool. I was a little bit worried that I was going to be sitting here having to chat inanely for quite a while whilst these were coming in. So thank you for having prepared. Mark Wilkins, D&M Blinds, Wolverhampton, #1 blinds manufacturer. Fantastic. Hi, good morning, Fidel. Wow, there's loads of comments coming in. So for you guys that are tuning in this morning that haven't already prepared your 40 seconds or your 40 words, then obviously if you do this and keep them for future broadcasts, then you will be able to then just copy and paste them each week when you tune in on a Saturday morning, which means that you won't be frantically trying to type something whilst we're going out live. So I've got a couple more minutes. So Martin Warrilow does stroke education. He talks and blogs and writes about his experience as a stroke survivor. Amazing work that you're doing, Martin. Hi, Richard Atkinson. And Fidel from Bad News Bowhill, an expert in wills, trusts and powers of attorney. Wow, it's great to see. It's great to see these all come in. Good morning, Michael Nagels. You work for a company called For Networking. I'm not sure whether we've heard of Forend, Michael. And yes, Michael Nagels should definitely be fined this morning for being late. Michael, you should have been the first here. Where were you? Making your coffee, probably. Stephen Daniels, the whatnot enables anybody to... Oh, that went too quickly. I'm sorry. Apparently, you were a little bit late, Michael. Right, okay, just time for one or two more. So Linda Reynolds, IDEO Holidays, you tell us where to go. It's not sunny in Warwickshire, Cros, no. I'm in Rhodes this morning, hence the sunshine. And Graham Todd, you're a social media cowboy, we know that. So it's... Oh, John Clapham, the only IFA that the Federation of Small Businesses recommend to their members. Guys, I'm so pleased that you're here. There's loads of people tuned in already. I'm so happy. Thank you for sending in your comments and your 40 words. And obviously these will stay on the thread for anybody to read through later on. And Forum will make sure that these stay on the community. So it's getting to the point where I need to introduce my foresight slot. So we'll move on to that just now. Yeah, I know, Graham, it'll never work. Todd, sorry. 46 people live, 48 and counting. It's absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to introduce my foresight slot now. And this is just as at 4 networking meetings. This isn't a sales pitch, but it's an insight into a specialist field experience or an interesting area of my life. My foresight is titled From Coma to Career Woman, and although I can't see you today, you guys can see me, and I really hope that you enjoy hearing my story. Please keep on sending your comments during my foresight. I'm not going to be responding to comments whilst I'm speaking, but I will check in later and read your comments and respond to any questions and things that you might have. So please keep them coming while I'm talking. So I'm going to get started. So some of you know me quite well by this stage, and hopefully there's people that have tuned in today that don't know me quite so well. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background, and then I'm going to tell you my story. So for those of you that don't know, I am Claire Russell, and I run a network marketing business through which I help people to set up their own home-based businesses, and I then mentor and look after those people as they go along. This is a very new direction for me, and it's taken me almost 20 years to get to where I now am, and really where I've always wanted to be, doing what I've wanted to do. And it's been really quite a journey for me to get to this point. For those of you that don't know my sort of earlier background, I worked in financial services for almost 20 years. And I took a huge decision earlier on this year to leave that career behind me for reasons that will become clear to you as I tell you my story. So, going back to the beginning, my first job was in insurance, and it was an office junior, a role as an office junior, and despite the fact that the annual salary was, I think from memory, was about £4,500. I regarded myself as incredibly lucky to get this job, and there's a number of reasons for that really. The first was when I got this job, I had just started my A-levels. I'd been studying for my A-levels for only about 6 or 8 weeks, I think. And I came home from college one day and said to my dad, I just don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to carry on doing my studies. And my dad said to me, okay, that's fine. You can go out and get a job if that's really what you want to do, but you'll need to go and do that today, because you are most definitely not going to sit around watching Jeremy Kyle or whatever it is that you young people do. And so I went out and looked for a job that day, and was fortunate enough to find a vacancy in a local insurance broker's, and went for an interview and actually was offered the job. I said there were a couple of reasons that I felt really lucky to get this job. And the second reason was because at the time I went in for this interview, I was actually waiting, I was on waiting list to have some quite major surgery. When I had been in my teens, when I was about 13 years old, I'd had septicemia, a sepsis in my hip, and that septicemia had caused huge damage to my hip joint and my femur, to the extent that I actually lost all of my right hip and the top of my femur and a big chunk of the sort of top end of my femur. This happened when I was 13, but I was not able to have surgery, the reconstructive surgery that I needed, until it's not gin, Stefan, it's water. I was not able to have reconstructive surgery until I was 18, and so I had a 5-year period during my teens when I was just waiting for this surgery. So really those years were just a write-off. I wasn't able to do the sort of things that teenagers would normally do. I was in a huge amount of pain and was just not really able to sort of live an ordinary life. So when I went to have this interview, I was actually waiting to go in and have this reconstructive surgery and a hip replacement. So I was really honest with the guy that interviewed me, who it turned out would be my director and become my mentor and a great friend. And he said to me that he was willing to give me a chance and offered me the job, knowing that actually I was on a waiting list for surgery and I would be having the surgery sort of in the next 6 months or so. So I started the job and really enjoyed the job and was starting to sort of learn the basics of insurance broking, really. 6 months whizzed by. I'm just going to grab my water. 6 months whizzed by, and the surgery date was upon me, and so I went into hospital, had my surgery. It all went really, really well, and then I think I was off work for about 3 months, 10 or 12 weeks, something like that, while I recovered from having the surgery. And then I was then able to ease myself back into work and went back to work part-time initially and then sort of built back up to being back at work full-time. And it was during this time that this sort of ambition began to burn in me, I think. I think I always had this sort of this ambition and desire to do something with my life and to be something. But I think it was really during this time when I was recovering from surgery that really became sort of a very strong feeling for me. And so I returned to work full time, determined that I was going to make a real career for myself. And I was really lucky that the people that I worked for were hugely supportive and helped me to do that. So I was back at work, 6 months or so whizzed by. I was really becoming quite confident in the work that I was doing, and in my mind I was starting to think, right, okay, this is my career, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get some skills and develop myself, and then I'm going to start my own business when I've got enough experience under my belt. And then something happened that I just couldn't possibly have anticipated, and which actually, I suppose my world came crashing down around my ears, really. It's a hard thing to explain how it felt, but I'd gone out for Sunday lunch with my friends and a couple of my closest friends, and we were in the pub just about to order our Sunday lunch, and I had a massive stroke, completely out of the blue. Initially, when I was admitted to hospital, the doctors that were looking after me, couldn't understand what had happened. You know, I was a almost 19-year-old girl, and you know, not a candidate to experience a stroke. But this is what had happened to me. I'd had a huge stroke. I was in a coma. My parents were told to prepare themselves for the fact that I probably wouldn't survive, and if I did, I would be very seriously brain damaged and probably not able to have very much quality of life. Obviously, I did survive, and actually I recovered incredibly well and beyond what any of the doctors could have anticipated, I guess. When I regained consciousness initially, I had completely lost the use of my right hand side, and all of the sensation on the right hand side of my body as well. I had to have a lot of occupational therapy and physiotherapy and that sort of thing, and I was really well looked after. I consider myself very lucky, you know, that I had a huge, amazing circle of friends and family and stuff around me who helped me to get back on my feet. But it was a really, really tough time. And, you know, I'll be honest, I had some really, really dark times going through that process. And there were times when I couldn't see a future. You know, I had all these dreams of the things that I wanted to achieve in my life. And for a while there, it felt as though those dreams and those choices had been taken away from me. And it was a scary time. But that didn't last for long, you know. There was still this determination in me that I wanted to do something with my life, and at the end of the day I had survived it, and I felt that actually I owed it to myself to fight and be strong and to do something really good with my life. So I did. I came out of hospital. Again, my employer, it was the same employer, they were amazingly supportive. They looked after me so well. I was off work for some months, and then when I was well enough to begin to return to work, I started to ease back into work, just doing a few hours a day and that sort of thing, because I wasn't well enough or strong enough to be there for any more than that at that time. But slowly I got my strength back. I recovered almost fully. I've never regained the sensation on my right hand side, so it's like I've got a line down the centre of me, and my right hand side I've got no sensation at all. But apart from that, I recovered absolutely, and I consider myself very lucky. So I went back to work, and I returned to work with this determination that I was going to start my own business, and I set myself the goal of setting up my first business by the time I was 21 years old. So fast forward sort of nearly 3 years, I worked really, really hard. I had loads of support, lots of people helping me, and 6 weeks before my 21st birthday, I opened the doors on my first insurance broking business, and it was a very, very proud moment. Also a very scary moment, and I think I've said to people before, in that first couple of weeks of running my business, I was absolutely petrified, and I had moments of thinking, what on earth have I done? I had no money. There was nothing salubrious about this business that I'd set up. It was me in a porter cabin on an industrial estate, with a computer, an old computer that somebody had given to me, and a desk with one of the legs taped up to stop the thing from falling over. There was nothing salubrious about it, but this was my dream and my vision, and you know, I was going to do it no matter what anybody said. So the business, as I say, started 6 weeks before my 21st birthday, and I built that business up to be a really successful business that didn't remain in a Portakabin on an industrial estate for very long. And I ran that business successfully for about the next 10 years or so. And that business was then sold to a national broker, and I was approached basically by a national insurance broker who wanted to buy my business, and that came at a really good time for me because my children were just at the point they were both going to both starting at school, and I was kind of ready for a different challenge, ready to do something new. So I sold the business and took a role with the large, really large business that bought my company. And then the next few years, I had a really interesting few years where I was the national operations director for this very large insurance broker. And that was a huge role and a massive sea change really from what I've been doing, but it was just an amazing opportunity for me to do something at a very large scale, which was an opportunity I was really pleased to have. It wasn't without its pitfalls and without its downsides, and that job became an extremely stressful job and a stressful environment for me, and it did take me away from my family and my children, really more than I had anticipated that it would, and more than I was prepared to do, really. So I did that job for about 3 years. I don't regret any of that time, because during that time I was exposed to things that I simply would never have been exposed to otherwise. The day before I took that role, I was the owner of a relatively small niche insurance broking business, and the day after I took that role, when the business was sold, I had a £100 million budget that I was responsible for, and staff all over the country between Padstow and Glasgow. So, you know, it was a massive change, but it brought with it fantastic opportunities for growth for me. And I learned more probably in that 3 years than I've learned in my entire career. So in that sense, I don't regret it. But it did bring a huge amount of stress, as I said. So my intention was not really to do that role for too long, because I didn't want to live with that sort of level of stress. And I was given an opportunity to take a role as managing director of a smaller business, still a sizable insurance business, but smaller than the national broker that I had been working with. And so I took that role. This is about 2 years ago now, 2.5 years ago, and genuinely thought that this was it. Although, sort of looking back on my earlier career, I'd always anticipated being in business for myself. Actually, this particular role seemed to give me the best of both worlds, because I was the managing director. I had the autonomy, you know, that went with that role, and the authority that went with that role, but I had the backing of you know, the founding partners of the business and their financial support and all of those things. So I actually thought that it was the ideal role for me, for reasons that I won't dwell on now, because it's not something I want to spend a lot of time on while I'm talking today. But for reasons that I won't dwell on, it didn't work out the way that I hoped it would, and actually I had really quite an unhappy time, and that resulted in me last year. I don't love the word nervous breakdown, but I think I came close to having a nervous breakdown last year. I suffered with horrendous stress and depression and anxiety, and it was a really tough time, and it resulted in me making the decision that I was going to leave my career behind, which was a really tough decision to make, because for me, everything that I'd ever done, you know, the way that I perceived myself, how I perceived success, all of those things were tied up in the success that I'd experienced in my career. And so to walk away from that was a really difficult decision, but I made the decision that I would, and I can now say I don't regret the decision that I've made, and I've never had a moment of of regret, and the business that I'm now running it truly does give me all of the things that that I dreamed of in terms of what business ownership would bring to me. So that brings me to sort of almost the end of my talk today, and what I want to sort of finish up with really today is what I've learned out of all of this. I think I wanted to sort of leave you with something that you could take away from listening to me today. And the thing that I want to leave you with is there will be things that happen in all of our lives that are outside of our control. Now, whether that's health issues or a natural disaster or a terrible accident or whatever it is, there will be things that happen that we just simply can't control. What we can control is the way that we react to those things that happen. So we have a choice as to whether we allow those things that happen to derail us from our dreams, or actually whether we use those things to motivate us. And we have these choices to some degree or other every single day, and we can choose success, we can choose positivity, we can choose growth, or you can choose to let those things derail you. And the choice that you make, that's what will determine your success. It's not the circumstances, it's not your situation, it's not your background, it's not the things that happen. It is your choice that will determine whether you succeed in life. Shit's going to happen. Stuff is going to get in your way. Things are going to happen around you that are going to hurt and that you're not necessarily going to enjoy. But your choice and your response, those are not set. You can make those decisions and you can choose your own way forward every time. And that is all from me as far as my foresight is concerned. So we're getting close to the end of my time with you this morning. My time is just about up, and I want to thank you for watching my foresight. It's really good to see all the comments. There have been loads of comments coming in while I've been speaking, and I'm sorry that obviously I can't comment on those at the moment, but I'll have a look at the comments and respond to them all later when I finish with the live broadcast this morning. So 4N TV is live back here, not here, unfortunately, but here on the page at the same time next week at 8:30, Saturday the 5th of November, when you can join Catherine Richardson, and her foresight is titled The Spielberg Effect. So make sure that you tune in then. I know I will be. I have been so privileged to do this this morning. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the other people that will do foresights on a Saturday morning. After each Saturday morning broadcast, there will then be a follow-up 15-minute live video stream from 4N's network leader Michael Nagels right here at 12:30 on Monday. So make sure that you can tune in and watch that too. If you would like an opportunity to present an episode of 4N TV Live, then message 4N on this 4N networking community page. It's free to take part and it's open to all Passport members. It's already booked up for months and months in advance, and we've got some absolutely amazing speakers booked, I know. So do get your request in soon if you'd like to have an opportunity to broadcast live at some point. This episode will be available to view anytime here, so please share it and please continue to add more comments, and I promise that I'll respond to them all. That's it from me today. I really hope that you've enjoyed my talk and tuning into 4N TV Live. Have a great weekend, and please feel free to stay here and continue networking right here on the 4N Facebook page. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you all soon. Bye.